On this week's edition of Connecticut Naturalist, Eastern American toads have a trilling contest in a vernal pool. Spring peepers turn up the volume to shout over the toads. Crayfish are crawling on the river bottom. Dragonflies hunt in the forest. Butterflies gather nectar in a clearing in the forest. More nature trivia with reporter Azizi Bonnet. Tulips and other flowers bloom in the garden. Tree frogs trill from high up in the branches of a willow tree. Down below, bullfrogs bellow in search of a mate. All this and more on this week's edition of Connecticut Naturalist. And now, here's your host. Hello, friends. I'm Will Michael, and you're watching the Connecticut Naturalist. The month of May has returned once again. With its arrival, many animals are exploding on the scene. We begin this week's program with a look at some toad activity that occurred in a vernal pool near here. We timed it perfectly. As the toads sing in the pool, we find a late arrival. There's a toad on the shore just making his way into the water. The latecomer hears the calls of his brethren and is heading towards the far end of the pool. We've got the night vision setting on the tardy toad, so not to deter his natural motives. Tonight is one of the first nights the toads are active. More toads should arrive in the pool as the night progresses. You may notice that some of the toad trills have a much higher pitch than others. The reason is somewhat humorous. When trilling, a toad must stand up straight. The vocal sac must not be obstructed by the water. The weaker high pitch is caused when the toad trills with half of his throat submerged. Watch closely and listen for the difference. The Eastern American toad awakes from hibernation sometime in April. They can commonly be seen at night on the roads, collecting heat from the pavement. By May, the toads make their way to the pools to breed and lay eggs. They follow the pattern similar to many Connecticut amphibians. Tonight is a warm night. We're lucky, because there's nothing worse than operating a camera while being wet and cold. The water is still, and the toad's reflection can be seen in the pool. Remember, only the male toads trill. The females will be arriving, and they'll seek out a dominant male. The males will compete over territory by having pushing matches. One of these nights will capture it on film. It's not an easy task. It's pitch black. When the light is on the toads, they're intimidated. The late toad finally swims towards the others. It looks like this toad is suspended in outer space. I think we'll have to get a petition started for a constellation named Leonard the Toad. Sometimes, when a female arrives, multiple males will swarm around her. In some instances, the female will accidentally be drowned by the weight of all the males pushing her under the water. Skunk cabbage and marsh marigold surround our amphibian friends. My battery is running low. It's time to say goodbye to our toad friends. Not only are the toads active in May, but choruses of spring peepers can be heard. Peepers are active in the vernal pools alongside with the toads. Let's take a look at some peeper activity that happened during this month. I'm standing in a foot of mud, water, and leaves for this shot. Oh, would I go through for my viewers. Anyway, the spring peepers are the first amphibians active in the spring. Choruses of peeps can be heard throughout our state declaring that spring is here. The peeper is the smallest frog in Connecticut. Do you know the difference between frogs and toads? If you don't, the distinguishing characteristic is this. Frogs have teeth on their upper jaws, while toads have no teeth. Toads are toothless. Now we're on our way out of the water to dry off. There's always a lot of activity in vernal pools during this time of year. We'll now break from the pools and take a look at some footage that I acquired as I went on a spring walk. I had my underwater camera, so here's a look at some underwater footage as well as some terrestrial footage.
Crayfish? Hey Will, I think we found some crayfish over here.
Let's take a look with the underwater camera.
Right here under this rock.
Oh yeah, wow, look at all that. Good job, guys.
Like 10 of them.
Let's see how it looks. With the help of the underwater housing, we can view crayfish like never before. In this small stream, crayfish are active. From up close, they look like giant lobsters. Crayfish belong to the class of crustaceans. Crayfish have 5 pair of appendages. Female crayfish carry their eggs under their abdomen. This helps ensure the eggs will not be consumed by predators. This shot offers a view of the ventral side of a female carrying her eggs. Here's one last look underwater. The lighting is perfect. The bright sun shines into the stream and illuminates our subject. This guy better be careful of herons on a day like this. Alright guys, we got a lot of good footage. Tune in Monday night and we'll see how it comes out.
Alright. Bye Will. Bye Will.
See you later. Keep up the good work.
Thanks.
We're on our way into the forest. A catbird chats as we go by. I'm walking down the trail, testing out a new camera mechanism. I call it the Will Cam. It makes it look like a reality TV show. This area of the forest is loaded with dragonflies. They're hunting for insects before they return to the ponds to breed and lay eggs. This area is a hotspot for dragonfly activity. Here we see the battle between an ant and a dragonfly. This log isn't big enough for both of them. The ant wants the dragonfly off the log. He brings in a reinforcement, and the two ants continue to antagonize the dragonfly. We find a brilliant green beetle known as the splendid tiger beetle. This beetle has powerful jaws used to capture other insects. Its larvae are also carnivorous. They dig small holes and wait with their jaws facing upwards. When an insect walks over the hole, crunch, the larvae bite the prey. The splendid tiger beetle is moving fast. It's hard to keep him in the frame. Why is he running so quickly? Oh, I should have known. A female is nearby. We'll take a walk up these stairs. More dragonflies on this old railing. There used to be a house here. Now only a few things remain. Look as the abdomen expands and contracts. It takes a lot of energy to fly. Continuing up the trail. Let's take a look in this open field and then in the adjacent woodlands. A small copper butterfly rests in the grass. It's busy gathering nectar from flowers growing nearby. Here we have a spittlebug. The adult spittlebug lays eggs on plants. The nymphs secrete a spittle-like substance as a protective covering as they eat the plant. In the adjacent woodland, we find a tiny wasp nest under a rock. This nest appears to be abandoned. I tell you, out in the forest, you have to be observant of every minute detail. I'll take a walk around the forest and have a look at all the spring wildflowers that are now in bloom. This trail is exploding with green. A cardinal sings above as we look at the flowers of the ragwort plant. On this dead ironwood tree, a colony of shelf mushrooms devour the decomposing wood. Under the tall trees of the forest, miniature trees grow. This is the Mayapple plant. The white flower blooms in May. The flower ripens into a circular fruit that is a favorite food of the box turtle. If you didn't see the oak tree in the background, these Mayapple plants would appear to be giants. They're only about 14 inches tall. These purple flowers are from the wild geranium plant. Here, some insects rest on the flower. We're walking down the old wood road. Chipmunks run along the path, and here we have another toad hunting insects in the afternoon. Everywhere in the forest, nature has surprises for us. Here's a large mushroom growing out of a rotten stump. All spring and summer, different flowers will be opening at different times throughout the forest. Now stay tuned for a Connecticut Naturalist trivia question with Azizi Bonnet.
It's time for trivia with Azizi.
Hello friends, I'm Azizi Bonnet with this week's trivia question. Here is a skull of a woodchuck. Woodchucks are members of the rodent family. Rodents have a reputation for continuously chewing on things, but it's a necessity. Do you know why? I'll be right back with your trivia answer in just a moment.
Azizi will return in a few minutes with your answer. Since we're on the topic of flowers, not only are wildflowers in bloom, also garden flowers are opening at this time of year. Here's a look at a Connecticut garden. A colony of mushrooms grows in the mulch near the garden. Mushrooms like mulch because the decomposing wood chips offer a rich supply of nutrients for the fungus. The majority of the fungal body is underground as a structure called hyphae. Hyphae is similar to a root system of branching tendrils. Hyphae secrete digestive enzymes and break down the mulch. The mushroom is the reproductive structure of the fungal body. A flower is to a plant as a mushroom is to a fungus. Inside the gills of the mushroom, thousands of spores are produced. The spores will be released, and hopefully, other fungi will begin to grow.
All the animals in the forest love Azizi.
Hi, I'm back with your trivia answer. Rodents' teeth never stop growing. They have to gnaw on all sorts of objects to file down their teeth. This prevents their teeth from growing too far out of their head. Look how long the tooth is. Pretty long. Very neat. That's your trivia question for this week. I'm Azizi Bonnet. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
We have a new segment on this program called Find the Hidden Animal, sort of like Where's Waldo. You'll see a still frame. Inside the frame somewhere, an animal is hidden amongst the background. See if you can spot the hidden animal. Can you spot the hidden creature in this picture? If you saw the eyes of a garter snake, then you got it. This footage was taken from the reservoir. The garter snake is basking in the sun. I often wonder why many people don't like snakes. Maybe it's because snakes are hard to identify with, since they lack arms and legs. Snakes lack eyelids. They never blink. They have a clear membrane that permanently covers their eyes, keeping them moist. Here, the garter snake is smelling the air. Snakes smell using their tongues. As we're viewing the snake, a male swan drifts by. His head is tucked over his back. He's getting some rest. There, now he's awake, checking the perimeter of the shore for any sign of intruders. As we're leaving, a Canada goose flies in. Towards the end of May, bullfrogs and tree frogs arrive at ponds and vernal pools throughout our state. Here's a look at this year's frenzy of bullfrog and tree frog breeding activity. We return to Blue Jay Orchard Pond. It's a warm night in May. The male bullfrogs are bellowing to attract females. All around the pond perimeter, males have claimed territories where they'll sing the night away. There seems to be a hot spot of activity under the willow tree branches. A glowing eye cone of a frog. We're using the night vision setting. There he is. The night vision allows me to approach close without intimidating them. Another reason to limit flashlight usage is that hundreds of thousands of gnats are out tonight. They're all attracted to the light as shown here. Nobody breathe. We look above the water and we see gray tree frogs perched in the willow branches. The tree frogs are doing the same thing as their larger cousins. The gray tree frog is my favorite frog in Connecticut. They look especially tropical. They have suction cups on their toes and can change color like a chameleon. Tree frogs are arboreal. They live life in the trees, eating insects. It's amazing to think how many animals survive off of insects. They're fantastic climbers. They stick to the sides of the bark with ease. They leap through the air from one branch to another. The males emit a high-pitched trill. but they also have an alternate chirping call. If you listen to the background, you may hear the alternate call once in a while. After breeding, female tree frogs lay their eggs in the edge of the pond water. The bullfrog down below waits patiently for a mate. Sometimes two males will claim the same territory in the pond. When this happens, battles erupt. The males have a wrestling match. The winner must flip the other onto his back. The loser retreats to another location. Males prefer weedy sections of the pond. The weeds offer protection for the eggs to develop. They put their chests together, grapple their arms around each other, and push back and forth. The hanging willow branches sway in the breeze, dancing across the crescent moon on this beautiful night in May.
During the week, I was on nocturnal animal patrol, looking for the fox pups. I had my lantern, and I was sitting patiently, but I had no luck with the fox pups. Here's what I found.
This must be the night of the toad. We've seen so many. I heard some rustling in the leaves and turned on my lantern. It was a young toad. This guy is too small to be in the vernal pools. Maybe he'll be mature enough next year. When a toad first leaves behind the water, it's only about 1.5 centimeters in length. This one is probably a year old. The light of my lantern attracts many insects. I was hoping the little toad would catch some while on camera, but he had other plans, to get away from the humans with all their lights, cameras, and noise. Here you can see the size of this toad in relation to a moth. I'm out tonight with Dr. Andrew George, the arachnologist. The toad seems to have a fondness for him.
Since we're again on the topic of toads, we'll take a look at some uncut footage of a toad rescue. I was joined by a teacher whose class I did a presentation for. Here's a look at what goes on behind the scenes before editing takes place.
All right, there's a car coming.
Oh gosh.
All right, well here, let's see how he looks. We just rescued a toad.
Oh, and there he is. Let's
And,
hope he doesn't get... Don't go back in the road. This is, what, your first toad of the season?
Second. Oh, here, just leave him on the ground.
Oh.
Don't hold him.
I want to hold him, though. Look how cute he looks. Look at those little legs. He's very strong.
Make sure you hold him close to the ground, though. Yeah.
All right. Sorry, buddy. He's a good-looking toad.
Isn't he cute?
He really is great. Real nice. Now, Will, tell me, when do these guys usually end up coming out?
Right now, what is it, April 9th? So the mid of April, all the way to the end of April. It just depends on how warm or cold it is for the year.
Let's let him go off into the woods. Adios. Look at that good camouflage he has, too. You almost can't even see him once he starts hopping away. All right, scoot-a-loot. Get out of here. You don't want to go on the road.
We've come to the end of this week's episode. I'm Will Michael, and you've been watching the Connecticut Naturalist. I'm now on my way to Washington, D.C. to film the cicada emergence. You may have heard about it on the news. Here comes another animal music video from the Connecticut Naturalist soundtrack, and I'll see you next week. Cassie, caterpillar, spinning a cocoon, hiding in the milkweed leaves, I will protect you. Soon you'll fly
on wings that I can't keep. But don't forget the caterpillar who watches while you sleep. Cassie, caterpillar, to you my heart is true. Underneath butterfly skin lives a catergirl I knew. Swallowtails won't catch you when you fall. I love you now, I loved you before. You were beautiful. Viceroys and painted men may whisper to you lies. They'll tell you anything because they like your eyes. Cassie, caterpillar, don't you metamorphosize. I'm afraid when you emerge, you'll fly out of my life. Where will you be when it's my turn to crystallize? All the time waiting for you, I wonder will you wait for me? Cassie, caterpillar, you grew up much too fast. Now I hope the dream we shared is a love that's going to last. Now you fly away so high. I'm alone down here, I think I'm going to cry. I don't believe what it is I see. I don't believe what I see. Cassie butterfly, she's flying back to me. She's flying back to me. Butterfly, your catty girl, she's still the same inside. I love you inside. I got to make that butter girl my cat a flying white. Never walking hand. Cassie's flying back, she's flying back to shore.